I recently posted a video that shared some of my favorite bottles for breastfed babies. After I posted that, I started getting lots of comments about a variety of different bottles that didn't make my list to ask why I didn't recommend them or if I thought it was a good option. I thought that was a good opportunity to share in this video some of the bottles that didn't make my list and why. My name is Katie Clark and I am an international board certified lactation consultant. If you want to see my top picks for bottles, not just for breastfed babies, but for all babies, go to the description and sign up for my free bottle guide. I want to start this video out with saying that if you use one of these bottles that I don't recommend, I am not shaming you. I don't think that you are a terrible person for using it. I also have not been paid by any of these companies and this is not sponsored in any way. I have simply found bottles that I find work best. It is entirely possible to breastfeed your baby and use one of these bottles I'm going to mention and have success. However, I work with so many moms every single day. Over and over again, I see more success with the bottles I mentioned in my other video for a variety of reasons, and I see babies refusing the breast with a lot of these bottles I'm going to mention. If it works for you, that is wonderful, and I am so happy for you. First, there's the Boon bottle. I can see why this bottle is a popular choice. I love the silicone nature of the bottle and that it is very easy to clean. Unfortunately, it does not have the nipple shape that I talk about in my other video. It has a very long nipple and a pretty drastic slope to a very wide base. Wide bases are not necessarily a problem, and I usually recommend having a wider base with bottles. However, this is way too wide. Often we find the baby is going to latch on the nipple and maybe a little bit of the base, but a lot of times they start to do straw-like sucking when they use these bottles. It also has a little bit faster of a flow, which can make it so your baby prefers the bottle over the breast. But if Boon is watching this, I would love if you came up with a different nipple because I love the silicone style. Next, we have the MAM. I had several people say that a lactation consultant recommended this one to them. There are lots of lactation consultants out there and lots of different babies. And so sometimes there may be a situation where you are recommended to use a bottle that isn't the one that we recommend for all babies. It may just be the bottle that your baby will take. However, I don't love this because of the flattened nipple. In general, when it comes to bottle nipple shapes and pacifier shapes, I think you should pick one that has the shape you want your nipple to look like afterwards. If you want your nipple to be flattened, this might be a good choice. It does have a little bit more gradual of a slope, but it still has a very long nipple. The nipple shape also is quite long, and while it does have a little bit more narrow of a wide base, it's still not ideal for getting a great latch for your baby. Next, we have the ever popular Komomo. They recently did a video on their Instagram channel showing their bottle off, and it actually did the opposite of what they wanted and showed us all the reasons why this is not ideal for a baby. You can go check out their Instagram channel if it's still up. This one has a very long nipple and the slope is drastic and it is wide. This is very difficult for a baby to get a good latch on. Often the baby just stays on the nipple right here and they don't end up getting that wide open mouth and angle that we want to see with a breastfed baby. Even when you're comparing the Komomo to the Boon, this still has more of a gradual slope. This really doesn't, and it has such a long nipple. I understand why people like these just because they're silicone, they're easy to find, and most babies do take this bottle, which is why a lot of people find that they like to use it because they've tried other bottles and their baby just isn't taking them. This bottle is very easy for a baby to take, which also means it's going to be very easy for a baby who might be having some oral dysfunction to decide that they like this bottle because it is easier. I've seen some families say that it also leaks really easily and that the flow is pretty fast. This is probably the one I get the most pushback on because people say it works great for their baby. If it works great for you, awesome. I have seen many babies deal with breast refusal after using these bottles. Next is the Nano Baby, which is another silicone bottle. If you can make your nipple how I like it, I will be very happy because silicone is awesome. You're gonna hear the same things over and over with most of these bottles. This has a very long nipple, which is not ideal for latching. We really don't need a huge long nipple because the baby is just gonna end up sucking on this. Sometimes they might get a little bit of a latch on the base, but it's not gonna be the wide angle that we're looking for. I do like how this one has I do like this one's base. I don't feel like it's as wide as some of them. That makes it more likely that the baby will probably latch a little bit more or similar to the breast, but that long nipple is going to encourage straw-like sucking and have your baby get more air. Tippy, pretty simple, long nipple, not a super gradual base. It's just not ideal. It's just not the ideal shape for encouraging a good latch and good feeding with a bottle or transitioning back to the breast. I also found that this one had a pretty flow fast, which honestly most of these are pretty fast with their flow, even with their size 1 nipple. There's the Nook. This one just has a really funky nipple shape. This is like their pacifier. So if your baby takes the Nook pacifier, they might really like this one too, but it's just not the shape that we're looking for when it comes to bottles. It has a very wide base and it's not gradual like with the other bottles that I recommend. And finally, let's talk about Avent. This one is the classic, I believe, and a lot of people use the natural, which I don't actually have right now, but I will be getting soon. Besides the Komomo, this is the one that I've had the most people come at me and say, this is what my pediatrician said, this is what all the research supports, this is what my lactation consultant loves, this is what my baby loves. This is what my favorite influencer on Instagram said they love. That is all fine and dandy, and if you want to use it, great. However, this probably has the longest nipple of all the bottles that I have shared here, and then that base is just not ideal. With the natural one, it is a little bit different, but recently they have redesigned it and it has an extremely slow flow, taking an hour for many babies to use this bottle. So if your baby is not able to suck really well, they are not going to get much out and it's going to be a long bottle feed. But either way, I just don't love the nipple shape on either the classic or the natural latch or whatever it's called. I'll put a picture here so you can see what it looks like. And in case you haven't looked at my bottle guide or you haven't watched my other video, what I am looking for in a bottle is not a super long nipple and just a very gradual slope into a wider base. This allows your baby to latch on like they are at the breast. This is the Avent Flow Balance Plus, which is my absolute favorite. It can be difficult to find though, which is frustrating. I wish that it was more in stock on a regular basis. But I have other options that I like. I am not sponsored by these companies in any way that I have talked about. If your baby is struggling to take a bottle, I would work with a lactation consultant that specializes in bottle refusal, because often there's a lot of things we can do and sometimes the problem is deeper than them just not wanting to take a bottle. If you have any questions, drop them below. I would love to answer them, and if you need any more help, my team does consults worldwide and I do them here in the Denver, Colorado area as well. So if you are interested, that will also be in the description below. Either way, hit the subscribe button and let me know if you have any other video requests for the future.